science. So we said, what recruiters expect from you as a data scientist. Before I proceed, let me still confirm that I am loud and clear. So if I'm loud and clear, you can hear me very well. Give me a thumbs up. Yes, thumbs up. All right. So let me go over this topic again. It's as if you guys are not catching it. From data cleaning to machine learning, what recruiters expect from a data scientist. So we don't just go through the data science workflow from data cleaning to machine learning. We need to ask the question, what does the recruiters in the UK expect from us, data scientists? An end-to-end journey for building real-world data science skills. You might be wondering, who is speaking to you? Who is this? Well, who are you? Right. So my name is Uche Victor Somadina, right? But you can call me Soma for short. So Soma, so I'll just let me act as a third person singular here. So Soma is a data science specialist at Amdari, right? Bringing over 5 years of invaluable experience in the fields of machine learning and AI, artificial intelligence. I am renowned for, but Soma is renowned for his innovative approach to solving complex data challenges. Do you have a hand raised? Sorry. Okay. So Soma is renowned for his innovative approach for solving complex data challenges. Soma has developed a profound understanding of the data science lifecycle, which is why Soma is here to share that experience, to share that knowledge, from initial data cleaning to advanced model deployment. So Soma has worked across different sectors, multiple areas, making him an invaluable asset in navigating the dynamic and ever-evolving landscape of data science. Soma is committed to delivering practical, impactful solutions that drive data-driven success, and he brings this expertise to every session that he leads, right? So that's just a short I don't know if I should call it a short actually, but that's just an introduction of Soma, an introduction of myself, the level of expertise or um the scope of experience I'm bringing into this session for us to exchange and for us to learn, right? So I want to tell us something, right? You might be wondering, for those of us that are just coming into this field, maybe we have not engrossed ourselves with the why we are here. Some of us might still be confused. What am I really doing in data science? Right? Why should I become a data scientist? So let me tell you, according to the UK government site, so go to uk.gov, over 40% increase in data science demand in the UK over the past 5 years. This shouldn't be something, this shouldn't be surprising. You shouldn't be surprised hearing this. The advent of AI, machine learning, building models, building LLMs every day, companies are actively integrating AI as a feature into their products, right? That's for companies that have existing products before the advent of AI. Now, currently, companies are now building AI solutions, right? Companies are now using AI or data science to profile solutions, to make predictions, right? To profile solutions to their problems, right? To stay ahead of the market, right? So this field will always be in demand. And record, we are not just speaking from words of mouth. I'm not just coming here to tell you that over 40, we are speaking with facts. We are speaking with data, which is the backbone of what we are talking about here, data science, right? So you might be wondering, but well, since you might be asking, since there is over 40% increase and someone said that 40% increase in data scientists according to UK government, but why am I not getting a job? Why am I not? I've applied, I've sent out CV, I've done several things. I even have a degree in data science. I've done masters in data science, right? But why am I still not getting that job? Why am I not being called for an interview? All right, after the interview, why am I not being called back for this job? What's going on? What am I doing wrong? Now, some people over rely on degrees and certificates. So some people's mindset they're already built around, well, I've gotten masters. I have masters in data science, right? And with that, they feel that they're hot cake. But is that what the recruiters expect from you? Do they expect you to come and show them certificates? Do they expect you to come and show them degrees? Right? Is that what they require from you? So that's the important question we should be asking ourselves. Is that what's being required in the industry today? Or is my skill set, is my ability to solve problems, is my ability, my problem solving skills required the main component or the main ingredient in this industry? Right? As we go, we are going to unravel the answers to this question. Meanwhile, some people over rely on degrees and certificates, which is wrong, right? Why some have irrelevant work experience and skills, right? Yes, recruiters don't want someone that will come to their company to occupy space, that will come to their company to create problem, right? They want to be sure that this problem you're coming to solve, you already have experience doing it somewhere else. So companies don't want you to come and, yes, most of them encourage learning on the job, right? So why they encourage learning on the job, they still don't want somebody that is coming with zero experience, that knows nothing about the field, that knows nothing about the industry, right? So it will be like an expenses or, you know, a financial mistake on their own end, right? So companies don't want that kind of somebody in their field, in their company. Another fact here is some people downplay their past work experience, right? Another one is poor positioning. Poor positioning. I know I use that word, poor positioning, because CV and LinkedIn is the positioning here. So when you have a poor CV, when you have a poor LinkedIn, when you're not showcasing what you have done, when you're not showcasing your portfolio, when you don't have a portfolio, right? A properly well structured portfolio, then you create doubts. So the recruiters will be wondering, okay, you say you can do this. What's the proof that you can do it? Where's your CV? You present your CV, is nothing to write home about. Where's your LinkedIn? You present your LinkedIn, and is laughable. Sorry to say, I need to use that statement, right? Where is your portfolio? You don't even have portfolio, right? So these are the things that these recruiters look at, and they will find it difficult to keep somebody like you, somebody that have these features, these characteristics I listed here, for CV and LinkedIn format and structure. Another one is very poor interviewing skills. Now you might have all this CV. Well, you have gone past the 8 years, you have gone past the first stage, now you are being called for interview. And now when you get to the interview, whether technical or non-technical interview, you won't prove yourself as a deserving candidate for this role, for this data science role. You have a very poor interviewing skills. Now, even if you have the skill, even if you have the portfolio, even if you have the correct CV, and you're not able to express yourself, you're not able to showcase what you can do in the interview, that's also a problem, because the recruiter will still have doubts that, are you sure you know this thing? Are you sure it's not somebody that did every other thing that got you to this stage for you, right? You see the kind of thing. So when you have a poor interviewing skills, it is also a problem. No relevant work reference, which is the final point here. No relevant work reference. Now, most company wants to, verify their potential candidate. They want to verify their potential candidate, that this candidate that is coming to this company is truly who he says he is. So they want to verify. Now, when you have nobody to refer you, you don't have any work reference, that stands as another problem. right? So these are the things that are minimum, right? And some others. Though luck can also play factor here, but are minimum. These are the things that when you don't set up yourself very well like this, right, then you have problem in taken as a data scientist in this company. So all these things, all these features disqualifies you from gaining that job. And that's why we are here. We want to fix these issues. We want to, set up ourselves, position ourselves, or reposition ourselves in a way that we want to prove to this company that if you don't hire me, you are the problem. Right? I know that's why we are all here, right? To get this job, to land this our dream role, right? So you want to position yourself in a way that when the company doesn't hire you, right, they are the issues here, right? So that's what we are going to. And speaking about you know, what comes, the perks of this data science is a fun fact, the perks of this data science. Why am I? Because we are definitely motivated by something, right? Something motivates us to wake up every day from our bed and go to hustle and come back every day. And that's the pay, right? According to Indeed, the average salary for a data scientist in the UK is around £52,957, right? Sweet, right? So that's, I know when they say data is the new oil, I believe all of us here must have heard data is the new oil. So let me be sure that we are flowing. So if you have heard this term, that data is the new oil, this line, that data is the new oil, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. That data is, data is the new oil. So some people with African mentality like myself will be thinking that the new oil they are talking about here is the the 52,957 pounds, right? Yes, it can, from looking at it from that perspective, it can still mean that. But what that statement is actually referring to is data itself, right? Data itself. The demand for data is like the data, we generate data every day, right? So the demand for data is becoming more and more and more expensive because it's now being used to do all these things. It's now being used to build AI. It's now being used to train LLMs, right? So the demand for it is now becoming, when all this, like, let's come down to the literal meaning of oil. Nigeria oil, Africa oil, right? So these are very important resources, right? Now, because it's not everywhere, because it's scarce, people tends to demand for it and it becomes expensive, right? Because it's scarce. The scarce it is, the more scarce it is, the more expensive it becomes. Now, that same scenario for the data we are talking about here, that is the new oil. Because the demand for data is increasing every day, is increasing. So that's now making data very expensive to, or very expensive commodity to have, right? That's when you start hearing all this data policy, data privacy, and the likes, stuff like that. That's what makes data expensive. And that's what the term data is the new oil entails, right? And not that the field of data is money. Yes, it is money, right? Yes, it is money, but that phrase in particular is not actually speaking about the money aspect. So get that correctly. So that's the money aspect, 52,000. That's on average, right? Depending on your skill level, depending on your level of experience, it can still go up more than this. But this is the average of what a data scientist earns per annum in the UK. So now, the important question, the very important question. A question I've asked a while ago, right? While introducing the reason why you might not be getting the job that you dream of, this data science role. Now, the question, how can you position yourself to get the exact experience recruiters are seeking to land that coveted data science role? How do you position yourself to get that experience? That's the important question. We have seen the downside. We have seen the things that we might be doing wrong, right? That makes the recruiters to overlook us, to shy away from us, right? And maybe this person doesn't know what he or she is doing, right? We have seen that part. Now the question is, how do we now solve this problem? How do we position ourselves to get that experience? What do we do? And how do we do it? That's the question we are asking ourselves here, right? Everything boils down to positioning, how you package yourself from the very beginning to the very last, from your CV, from your project, or from the kind of project you do, from the kind of project you have in your portfolio, from your CV, your skill set, your experience level, your ability to communicate and present to non-technical stakeholders, right? So these are the things that makes you stand out. Your positioning. I use that term position. The way you package and you position yourself. That's what differentiates you from every other person out there. That's what makes you stand out. The repeater will be like, oh, this is somebody that is not the same as other people have been saying. This employee is gold. We really need this person in the company. It depends on how you position yourself. It depends on how you package yourself, the kind of skill that you have. Right. Now let's look at, as far as data science is concerned, in the modern day industry, we are talking about data science, right? In the modern day industry, what's required? The most in-demand data science skills today. What do I what do I need to what skills, what technical skills do I need to know or do I need to have if I'm looking for a data science role today? Now we know that data science follows a particular workflow. It follows a pattern. After doing this and knowing why you are doing this, you do that. After doing that and knowing why you are doing that, you do the other one. It's a step-by-step process, workflow. And if you miss one, it's going to give you a problem, right? We start from data collection. That's where the main thing starts from, right? From data collection. No matter where you're getting your data from, it depends on the kind of problem you are faced with, the kind of solution you want to profile, the kind of predictive analysis you want to perform, the kind of case study you are working on, right? That determines the kind of data you should collect for this kind of case study, for this kind of problem. Now, after collecting the data, do you just carry the data and fix to your model? Do you just carry the data and build insights and do your or explore the data, do exploratory data analysis? What next do you do to this data when you collect them? Depending on where you collect from, you can collect from a database, which is expected that the data engineer must have arranged the data and is now serving it to you via either a database, depending on the size of the company, either a database, a data warehouse, a data lake, right? So it depends, right? But whether your data is coming from social media, whether it's coming from Twitter, whether it's coming from, that's in this kind of situation, that's where you want to look at you want to include the data of your competitor, more like generalize your model, improve your model, right? So that's where you need to, okay, do I need to scrape this data from a web? Do I need to scrape from Twitter? Do I need to scrape from any static web page or dynamic web page? Right? All these things in this. Another important one is even going to the field. I forgot to mention going to the field to collect the data yourself. That part of data collection is what we actually call primary data collection. Right? You go and you collect. If this data is not arranged for you and get, you go to the field, you conduct survey, and you collect this data yourself. Right? So after that data collection, you pre-process the data pre-processing. Remember, this is a step-by-step process. You pre-process the data, right? Or some people call it wrangle the data. WRANGLING. That's wrangling, right? It still means the same thing. Data cleaning, data pre-processing, or data cleaning, data wrangling everything falls under the umbrella data preprocessing, right? That's where you arrange your data, you check for missing values because some of your models don't work well with missing values. You check for inconsistencies in your data. That's the naming convention. If the name is incorrect, right? You check for these things. You check for null values. You check for duplicates, right? You check for biasness. But that point, that particular area, you need to be very careful, right? But I won't be going in depth in that one. When you check for biasness, when you check for the distribution of your data, when you check for outliers, you just have to be careful in that aspect because everything comes down to the kind of problem you are trying to solve. Then after that, you perform EDA, exploratory data analysis, right? That's where you still go for that, you still dig deeper. I always tell my students, right? If your data and the case study you're working on, or most especially your data, if it doesn't make sense to you, like you're looking at your data and you're trying to see this data and it doesn't make sense to you, please do not expect it to make sense to your model. It wouldn't in any way make sense to your model. So you need to dig deeper to understand what this data is actually talking about. Right? What is this data? What was the distribution of this data? In fact, it's from this EDA that you know the kind of features to engineer, to the kind of features to create from the already existing ones. That's the process that we call feature engineering. I also place it under data preprocessing because that's you creating more features and more data that you still need to preprocess at the end of the day before taking to your model, right? Now, if you notice something, we moved from EDA, exploratory data analysis, a step back to data preprocessing. That will bring us to the fact that you see this data science workflow is an iterative process. Is a cycling process. You don't finish one and say you are done, right? You can do your data collection down to the model building, down to deployment, right? And in production, you are seeing that your data is not, your model is not like performing well. Yeah. You need to check your data again and then go back to collect more data. That's you going back to your step one. So it's an iterative process and it's an experimental process. You keep checking, you keep tuning, you keep reviewing, you keep iterating, and you keep fixing till you get what you want. That's what makes this field so sweet. Like that's what there is no one size fits all. There is no this is how it's supposed to be, right? Everything boils down to the data you are dealing with, the kind of problem you're trying to solve. That will determine what you're expected to do, right? Then from there, we move to training the model, right? For me, for me, this particular process is the easiest process for me because um, you don't need to train from scratch. You already have existing models, right? You don't need to write the formula from scratch. You already have models like XGBoost, like GBM, logistics regression, assemble models, tree models, right? That's decision trees, random forest. You already have this already programmed in Python language to make it easy. You don't need to build out the model from scratch. So you just need to plug and play, evaluate, test, plug again and play, evaluate, test. That's the iterative process, right? So personally, I consider this as the easiest part of easiest step we have here, right? So you train and you evaluate your model, right? Now, for most of us here, especially people that have not really worked in the industry, right? You might be wondering, why do we need Git or GitHub? But before I proceed this, how many of us have heard about Git and GitHub? If you have heard about Git and GitHub, give me a thumbs up. If you have heard about Git and GitHub, okay, quickly, can someone tell me what the just in a single line sentence, the difference between these two? Can anyone differentiate the difference or explain just in a single line difference between these two? Anyone? Don't worry if you don't want to speak, you can still put it in the chat. Can still put it in the chat, right? So why we move forward. So Git and GitHub, right? The way I say these two things, right, in a single line explanation is that Git is the engine of GitHub. Git is the main version control tracking system, right, that tracks your project. Now GitHub is like the interface or the UI that enables you operate Git seamlessly. Though we have new features being integrated into GitHub, right? But that's the core difference of these two. Git is like the engine of GitHub or like the backend of GitHub, and it's used for project tracking and collaboration. It's a very, 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 very emphasis on the very important skill to have in this industry. Because when you get to this field, you collaborate, you work with back-end developers, you work with front-end developers. You are just coming to integrate the AI or the machine learning aspect of things or features to that product, right? So you collaborate with these people. And how do you collaborate with these people? In fact, you can even collaborate with your fellow data scientists, right? Myself and you can collaborate on this project. Now, how do we do that? How do we ensure that my code is being tracked and your own code is being tracked and we are seamlessly collaborating on this project? That's why Git and GitHub is very, very important. Is used in the industry, right? And another one is for deployment. It's actually used to move your code from your local server to your production server, right? For deployment. Then we have Docker, which is used for containerization, right? We don't go deep into this, just used for to package your application to make it very easy to deploy on the production server. Then we have Fast API. These are the skills that we need in today's modern industry. For building API endpoints, Fast API for building API endpoints, application programming interface. That's like a connector between your front end and your model, between your front end and your model. Then we have Streamlit and Graduate. You can see what I added here for prototyping, right? These two things is not used in production actually. It's used for your personal usage, right? And more like a pre what should I call it? Just a way of prototyping how your model works. So when you want to showcase to your let's say your manager or your team lead who is not that technically savvy, you wouldn't want to be showing the person a running fast API or a running Swagger documentation, right? Don't worry yourself about that. Or let's say a running Postman. This is what you use to like see the documentation of your endpoint. So you need to show this person, your manager, your team lead, who is not that technically inclined, an interface, something that when he says that, oh, this is actually when you plug your data, you use it to make prediction and you give your recommendation, that is actually being used to solve the problem in the industry, right? So you need to present to the person something that is friendly, something that is aesthetic, right? An interface. And that's where Streamlit and Graduate comes in, which is solely used for prototyping. Then we have the end-to-end data science workflow, right? So we have actually seen more like these in-demand skills and why it's being needed, right? The skills that you need to survive in this or to succeed in this industry. Now let's look at the workflow, right? How do we start? How do we end? So it's something similar to what we did in the previous slide. But this time around, you start with your project setup and installations because you'll be needing libraries, you'll be needing environment. These libraries which will be running in a dedicated environment. You'll be needing basically libraries, right? Different packages. For those of us that this is not the first time in this field or maybe coming from a data analysis background, you must have heard about pandas, numpy, matplotlib, seaborn. So these are the core foundational libraries that you need, right? So you need to install these things. You need to set up your project. Project structure. Your project structure is very, very important, right? Now, when a recruiter, a technical recruiter is looking at your project structure. Let me put myself in this shoe. I'm the technical recruiter now, right? And let's say I'm looking for a data scientist in my company, right? I'm trying to paint this picture. I'm looking for a data scientist. I have a good number of candidates, right? So they're presenting their portfolio, they're presenting their GitHub repository, right? And then I'm seeing project structures. From that project structures, I will really tell who have experience in this field without needing to ask you of anything. With the way you structure your project, determines if you have really worked with where deployment is being done. If you have worked with, um, if you have collaborated with people, data scientists, developers, if you have collaborated on a project, if you have experience in this industry, your project structure sells you out on whether you really have experience in this industry. The way you structure your project is very, very important, right? That comes as the first step, your project setup and installation. Then we have data gathering and collection, which is the first step that we listed in the in-demand skills, right? So you need to gather your data, you need to, the data that you need. In the industry, they don't spoon feed you. They don't carry the data or present you with CSV, right? Like set you up, present you, download the CSV for you and give it to you in carry and go and build model. Nobody sends you. You are the data scientist, source for your data. Source for what you want to use to make this thing happen. What we need from you is to make it happen, right? So you gather your data, you collect your data. That's where you can even raise connections to databases to pick the data you need, depending on your restrictions, because there will be restrictions to the information that you have, right, in a standard company, right? So depending on that, you can go to a database, pick your data that you want to use to build your model. Then we have the data preprocessing, we have the EDA, we have the model training and evaluation, then we have the model deployment and inference. The inference aspect here is you using your model that you have trained to now make prediction in production. So all the processes, involved in making prediction with already trained model is categorized under inference, right? So the essential technical skills. What skills do we need in this field, right? What do we need? If we want to pull data from a database, how do we do it? What skills do we need to make this happen? If you want to scrape data from a website, how do we make this happen? What skills do we need to make this happen? We have SQL, right? Some of us might be wondering, maybe those that have experience, maybe those that have done masters in this data science field, those that have experience, might be wondering, what's SQL doing here? Why do we need SQL? Like, SQL should be for data engineers or should be for data scientists, right? But let me put it to you that in the industry, right, you find yourself sourcing for your data. Definitely, you find yourself sourcing for your data. You need to go to that database and pick your data. And how do you communicate to a database if not structured query language, if not SQL? That's for relational database. We have non-relational databases. The way we communicate to them is different. We use NoSQL, NoSQL, right? But for now, let's stick with, because most popular ones is actually the relational database, right? So that's what we use SQL for, to query or to communicate with relational databases. Now we have beautiful soup, right? We have beautiful soup, which is used to scrape static websites, websites that are not changing, right? Websites that are just static, they're just like your news website. They just upload. They don't have back end. They don't have database. The data there is not changing. It's always the static, right? So you can easily scrape it with Beautiful Soup library. It's a Python package, right? It's actually a Python package that you use to scrape static website. Same thing with Selenium. But Selenium actually is for dynamic websites, websites that are changing. For instance, Okay, I don't know. I forgot to mention my fun facts. What I do for fun. I'm a Chelsea fan, like the Blues, right? So, for instance, if I want to, maybe times that I don't know what the Blues are playing or what the scoreline is like, I'll go to all these live score to check. So I'm just using that as an instance. So website like this, like, is constantly being evolving, like it's constantly changing. This website is dynamic. It's constantly changing. Scores are being added. When they score, they add. So when you want to script this kind of website that is dynamic, you don't need Beautiful So won't do it for you, right? That's where Selenium comes in. It's a package for scraping dynamic websites. Down, down to the package that, if this is not your first intro to data science, you should be familiar with it. Scikit-learn, right? So inside this scikit-learn, we have different sub-modules and different functions that allows you to train your model, right? It contains all the most models, not all, contains most models, right? Especially when you are talking about machine learning models, actually, most machine learning models. But then when you're talking about deep learning, building neural network or computer vision, let's take, for instance, um, we have, that we have applications now that, um, let's say, face detection application, right? Something that that detects your face. Or let me say, okay, let me use this example. Let's say let's say a platform or a product that predicts okay, let's say all these cancer, let's say cervical cancer, for instance, right? So there's all this product that predicts cervical cancer, right? So for this kind of problem, we are dealing with images of these cancer issues, right? So that images of these cancer issues, we want to the product, how it works is, you give it the image of your or a image slide of the membrane, right? The membrane. I'm a biological student. That's why I know that is what a membrane is called, right? Or what I mean by a membrane. So it gives you or the tissue, right? Or anything, a sample. And it then looks at it, the model now looks at it and predicts, okay, this cell is cancerous, okay, this slide is cancerous or positive or negative, benign or malignant, right? So that kind of prediction is not really done, is not your traditional machine learning process. So it's done with is classified under data science category that we call computer vision. And that computer vision uses neural networks, right? We build neural networks for it. So I wouldn't go into details for that, right? But for this, to build this neural network, we need libraries like TensorFlow, PyTorch, TensorFlow, and PyTorch. So that's what we need to, build this kind of project for computer vision and the rest. Then we have LangChain and LangGraph. So that this when we now start going into, there are more to this, there are more libraries and there are more packages for different. So when we start going into NLPs and the rest. But now when we are talking about LLMs, large language models, like your ChatGPT, you want to build something, you want to build a WhatsApp chatbot. Remember, the industry is changing. It's not what you it's not what you think is applicable in the last 3 years or 2 years. That's what they're using currently in the industry now. No, right? The industry is dynamic, is changing. Now we are now building chatbots, AI chatbots, RAG applications, right? And to do that, we need skills with LangChain and LangGraph, right? Now, Git and GitHub, which I mentioned earlier, and the reason we need it. We need Docker for containerization. So when you talk about moving that application from your local server, which is your system. When I say local server, I mean your computer, to a production server, to a production computer, a computer that now serves the general public, right? You need to package the whole thing. You need to, like, the way you wrap your goods, you want to surprise your girlfriend, right? You or your wife, you wrap your should I say shoe? You wrap it in a container, you decorate it, you wrap it, package it well, and when you present it to your wife, they will, wow, wow, that's an idea. So you need to package your application well so it doesn't misbehave in production, right? So how do we package it? Is using an application we call Docker, right? We use Docker to package our application, to move it, to make it ready for production usage. Then we have Fast API, or some people use Flask, and there is Fast. But then Fast is, as the name entails, it's actually fast and is the most popular. It's what's been adopted. Is more adopted than Flask API, right? So that's why. So Fast API is actually used to create or to build out your API endpoint, which, like I explained earlier, is like an intersector or a connector between your front end and your back end. Then we need Streamlit and Graduate, like I said, for prototyping to showcase how your model is functioning. Maybe before they integrate it into their main application. Before the company now integrates your model feature into the main application. That's what Streamlit and Graduate is used for, to prototype what we have done. Right now, since we have seen all these skills, right? We know that we need all these skills, right? Now, let's ask ourselves another question. These recruiters, what are they really looking for in your portfolio? Right? What recruiters really look for in your portfolio? If they look at your portfolio, what are they hoping to see? Right? First, you need to convince them that you have done enough projects to be able to handle their work, be able to handle the work they called you for. You need to prove that you have done enough projects. So you need to have at least 3 projects in your portfolio, at least 3 solid projects that solves real or that tackles real world business challenges. I'm going to be doing house price prediction. Sorry, but if you, or let's say, what is this? I'm trying to remember the name of this project, but what you are trying to predict is flower, like petal length, sepal length, and like I think that's the variables, the features that is in that data. So if if you started out like myself in this data science field, that data set should be your first encounter. That's it. So you can't have that kind of project, and you want to use it to convince a recruiter that you can handle building a model that they want to use for in they want to use in their company to serve the general public. You can't have that kind of project. You want to have a project that tackles real world business challenge, well organized, and then a well organized GitHub with clear structure, emphasis on the structure, with clear structure and thorough documentation and proper version control, right? Then let me just give an example of this thing I'm saying, right? So you're looking at this, this is just an interface, a GitHub, right? So if you have used GitHub, you should be familiar with it. Just that your own might be white, while my own is in dark mode, right? So looking at this project now, you see this is a RAG application actually, an LLM, right? This document. But you see how this project is structured. Now looking at this, if I come to look at this project as a recruiter, and I'm looking at this project that is structured like this, having well arranged, having the data in the data folder, having maybe another data in a different folder, then having the assistant, that's the body, in a folder, and inside that folder you're having there's what we call it, and we call it separation of concern. That's the term, separation of concern. We call it separation of concern in the industry, where or for those of us that have back maybe software development experience, or we call it is similar to microservice, right? You are treating each sector of your project as a separate entity. In data cleaning, data gathering, you have it separately, well structured inside a folder. Data cleaning, you have it separately, well structured inside a folder. Model building separately, well structured inside a folder. Inference separately, maybe as a file, right? Or inside a folder. The idea that you separated this, structured this project well. The reason we do it like this in the industry is that you might not be the only person working on this project. You collaborate with people, right? So when someone else comes to your project and is trying to understand your project, right? Or when a recruiter in this instance comes out, the person wants to understand your project, right? You don't want to bulk or overwhelm the person with your project. You're showing the person that, oh, if you're interested in EDA, this is the compartment for EDA. If you're interested in data cleaning, this is the compartment for data cleaning. If you're interested, you separate it like that. That's separation of concern. That's a well-structured project. And if me as a recruiter is coming to look at this project, I will be very sure that you have worked on something that was pushed to production, or you have worked on a project that you collaborated with people. That's the power of a well-structured project, right? So you don't just come and have a Jupyter notebook that contains a one dot let's say prediction.ipymb, and you are having the whole process of the whole your entire code base. You're having an entire code base inside a single .ipymb file. So now if I want to maybe make, let's say as a collaborator, I want to make a tweak to your model, I will start scrolling to the very last where you did your model training. Before I even get to that place, I will ask you, what's the problem with you? So that's the power of structured project. You need to structure your project properly. So this is just an example. Now, after you have done your project, you have built out a prototype using Streamlit and Graduate. How do you present your insights to your recruiters? In fact, let me tell you something, right? This is one of the most important skill to have, presentation and communication. It is one of the most important skill to have, because when you have, or if not the most important, because when you have all these you structure a project, you are good with what you do, you know how to train your model, you know the steps, you know everything, you know how to deploy, but you cannot communicate what you have done, especially to non-technical people. You cannot like break it down. You cannot tell them that, you cannot explain to them that um okay, this is the accuracy level of this project, of this model, this is what it's predicting, and this is why it's predicting this, right? If you cannot explain this to somebody that is not technical, cannot communicate it effectively, then you have work to do. You have a serious work to do. Because if you don't present your insights, if you don't present how your model works, what your model is predicting, how you're able to come up with that, how why you are using the model you are using, right? What moved your decision to pick XGBoost instead of random forest? If you're not able to communicate this in simple terms, then you have work to do, right? First, you have to be clear and coherent with your communication. You have to be clear with the way you present this, right? You have to explain these technical concepts as if you are explaining them to a child. That's as if, have it in mind. Whether, in fact, let me give you guys a tip, right? If you find yourself in this kind of situation, right, where you want to present your insights to maybe recruiters, or just even if it's a technical interview, or even if it's technical, even if it's non-technical, just assume, going into that room, assume that everybody there is non-technical. Assume that everybody in that room don't know what scikit-learn is. They don't know what TensorFlow is. They don't know what SGBoost is. They don't know these things. Have it in mind. Have that mindset that they don't know it. That will inform how you structure the way you now present to them. And always, which is the most important point here, frame your answers, frame what you're presenting around how you can solve their business problem. The company is not employing you to come and showcase that you can deploy to DigitalOcean or that you can deploy to AWS. or that you can train a model, or that you can. That's not why they're paying you. No company is paying you to come and freestyle, to come and show strength that you can code, or to come and no company will ever employ you for that. They are employing you because they have a problem that they feel that predictive analysis can solve. That's why you are coming in as a data scientist. You are coming in to solve a business problem. Now, when you're presenting to these people and you keep mentioning scikit, you keep mentioning Python, and you keep like, what are you talking about? Right? You are not framing your answers in a way that, yes, they will know that, oh, this our problem is likely to be solved by you. You're not framing your answers around that, how you can solve that. Then you have work to do, right? So always endeavor to frame your answers around how you can solve the business problem at hand. Very importantly, just like I said, recruiters don't hire you just for your skill set. Nah, nobody does that. They're investing in you. So that you are being paid, right? And you are being paid from what the company is making, right? So they're not paying you for you to come and freestyle with your skill set. They're paying you because of your potential value you can bring to the business to solve their problem. Always have this in your mind. Always have this when you walk into that interview. Always have this even when you get the job. Always have this in your mind when you walk into that room of stakeholders to present to them. If you don't take anything away from this session, take this. Always have this in mind. Consider everybody there as non-technical and speak to them as if they don't know anything. Then frame your answers, frame whatever you are speaking around how what you are delivering can solve their business problem. Right? Now, how to ace a data science interview, right? You need to how to ace a data science interview. First is all about your preparedness. Be mentally prepared, right? I've given us a tip. Consider everybody there as non-technical stakeholders, non-technical people, interviewers, recruiters, right? And explain to them. And for you to do that, you have to be mentally ready. You have to be prepared. Then you need to also show that in as much as you want to solve their problem, you still have the skill set required to solve this problem, right? So you need to practice your coding challenges. We have because some interviews just starts with uh, coding challenges, right? So you need to practice. We have Lead Code, we have Hackarank, we have all these websites where you can go to practice your coding and be sure that you're solid in that area. Then showcase your problem solving skills, right? You need to showcase that you can solve their problem. Demonstrate how you handle projects, teamwork, and conflict. These are if you are coming to an interview, and then your soft skills, how you how you how you approach them, the first impression. You put up a smiley face and you just talk to them as if they're friends, right? As if they're your friends. Then why explaining the solution or why profiling the solution to the problem you have been called for, right? So you need to also have that in mind. Need to be your soft skills need to be top notch. Need to communicate effectively and appropriately. So that's then I've been talking, mentioning fast API, deployment, data structuring your projects, all these things, right? So we need to just we want to do a quick one, a quick project demo, right? But before that, if you are with me, give me that thumbs up. If we are together, give me that thumbs up. All right. So I'll just like show us how okay, the thing here is that we want to solve a problem. Always have the problem in mind. We want to build um, a predictive recommendation system. So let me just share my screen here. So we want to build this solution for OptiSecure insurance company, right? So this company have the business challenge, right? They have these obstacles: low renewal rates, fragmented customer insights, operational inefficiencies, competitive pressure, right? So because of all these things, they want a system that recommends an insurance policy to their already existing customers. Now, based on their demographics, based on their personal information, right? So based on this, we want to like recommend a policy type to you as a customer, and for you to okay, this policy is actually good for me. Maybe a health policy or any of that is actually good for me. Then you still go ahead to um patronize the or renew your stake with the company, right? So all these things, if we successfully solve this problem to this company, you can see that we have increased or we have reduced their churn rate, right? We have, because of these are feature, this company is retaining customers. So before the current subscription for or say any for a policy ends, we are already recommending or predicting one for them, right? For them to renew their policy based on their customer demographics, based on their demographics, and then other informations like that, right? Now you see the business challenge here. You see what you are being faced with. This is the core thing here. This is what we want to solve, right? How do we solve it? Now, down to VS Code. I am not using, right, because if you are okay, let's say let me use masters students for instance. So if you have done masters in this field, most especially or if you have done anything data science in academia, then what you should be familiar with is how doing all these things, experimenting with model accuracy, and you mostly do your work inside Jupyter notebook, right? And it ends there. But in production, right, you want an IDE. IDE is integrated developers environment where you write your code, right? So you want an IDE that makes things because now you'll be incorporating different tools. You'll be using Git, you'll be using GitHub, you'll be using this, you'll be using that, right? So you want a system that makes it easy, right, to incorporate all these externals, even Docker, right? Even so this VS Code now makes it easy for you to integrate all these features as extensions. Now looking at this my extension, I have Postman here. If you have been paying attention carefully, you must have heard me mention Postman and Swagger. It's just an interface to demonstrate or to document your API, right? Now I have Postman integrated here. This is it. I have Snowflake. If I need to like work with a Snowflake kind of data warehouse or data lake, whichever one, right? I have MongoDB here. So you see how you integrate all these things. So all these things are things that help you with your project. Now, most importantly, project structure. So let me close all these things, right? Let me close all these things. Now, you see how this project is structured. From database, the code that is with database, to data cleaning, to data modeling, or to EDA is arranged in alphabetical order. So that's why you are saying that A, B, C, D, E. You are seeing the E after the D, right? But the idea is that you have all these things, the different components of the project in different compartments, in different folders. Now, from the data cleaning, right? Or sorry, from the data collection. So for this project, we were provided with um, database credential. So this one, we are not being provided with data a CSV. You don't see that kind of thing. You rarely, it's not like it doesn't happen. It depends. If you are working with a startup, it's likely that just provide the CSV, maybe something like that. But you rarely um, get your data in CSV format or it's just to download and plug it to your model and you are done, right? You go and collect your data. Now, this project communicates to a database. So we pull our data from the database And this is the query. You see us writing SQL query inside Python, right? So this is the query that pulls the data from the database, right? So with this our data, we created a data cleaning pipeline, right? A data cleaning pipeline. So this pipeline involves from this is a pipeline that follows a structured, a step-by-step, a stepwise process from loading your data to creating, engineering some columns, right? Although this is basic engineering where you separate um, your year, your month, and your day from your date columns, right? Because you want to have it. That's how you process your date columns. You need to separate it to have it year, month, and day, right? So that's for this. Then we have for dealing with null values. So we used k-nearest neighbor for this, right? To deal with these null values. Then we worked with categorical. Okay, in this data we have textual and we have categorical. So we need to encode for these two, right? So we needed to convert categorical to categorical data type, right? So this is us trying to process this data. Let me just stop here before some people will start shouting. So this is the process that is involved in pre-processing this data, right? So at the end of the day, we train our model and we build an inference. So this is what building the fast API looks like. And this is so fast API comes with automatic Swagger documentation, right? So that one is done for you in the backend. So you just need to run your project and you're good to go, right? So, but this is us building the API. So I'm going to run this, right? I'm going to run this and I will, when I run it, I will make prediction, right? With this example data, with this example information. Remember, we have trained our model, right? We have trained our model and we saved it. We trained a random forest model. We experimented with a log rec, but finally we moved with random forest, right? So with this model, we want to now make prediction based on this data, right? We want to make prediction based on this data. Now, as a data scientist, that you want to integrate your endpoints, right, into your API endpoint. Remember, I mentioned Fast API, which is used to build API endpoints. And this is Fast API. Is like a library as well, right? So we use it to build API endpoint that connects the input to the model. So once we get the input, which are all these information that we have here, we plug it to our model and then we make prediction, right? So the API there is like the connector, the middleman, the server, right? Okay, let me use restaurants for instance now. So you go to a restaurant, right? You as the individual is the client or the user, right? Or the client, they're different, but for now, let's just like put them together because client is actually your browser, like your Chrome, right? Then the user is there, but let's combine them for now, right? So you as the customer, you go to this restaurant and you sit down. Now you want to request for something, right? You raise your hand, you do waiter, come. Right now, waiter now comes. You now request for okay, wait, I need hero. I want to drink beer, I want to get high this evening. So I need hero. You place your request, right? You or sometimes the waiter gives you their menu, right? The waiter gives you their menu. That menu now is the documentation. So as I'm explaining this, I'm referencing it back to the data science, the fast API. That menu is like the API documentation that shows you what you can request for, the kind of data you can plug in, what you can request for. Now you place that menu to the waiter, to the customer, right? You as the customer, you see the menu, okay, get me this, get me this, get me this. Now you give it to the waiter. The waiter now carries it, that your request, then carries it to the kitchen. The kitchen now is the backend. The kitchen now is the model. The waiter is the API that carries this request from the customer, which is the client, to the model, which is the kitchen. Then Now tells the kitchen, okay, kitchen, this person needs this, and this, and this, and this. Can you provide it? The kitchen says, yes, I can provide it. That's if kitchen says yes, that's the status is 200. I can provide it. Okay, I give it to me. The kitchen now gives you the hero, the everything, the Nkogi and the rest of them. You now carry it back to the customer. That's the response that the kitchen is giving to you, right? Carry that response back to the customer. Now, that waiter is the API in this case. So API goes to the user that is using this out. There's one that want to use this our model to make prediction, whosoever that person is, carries the shows the user with the documentation. It shows the user that this is the kind of thing we can give you. This is the kind of thing we need from you. These are the things we have. So this is the kind of thing we want to get from you, right? You as the user, you plug this information, which is what we have here. These are the example, right? Just example. You plug this information, the user now takes it to the API, now takes it to the model. It makes prediction. Oh, the policy type is this. The policy type you are recommending, we are giving to this, is that, right? So that's what API basically does. And we do it with fast API, right? Now, quickly, I'm going to run this project. So I'll say, let me split this. Let me split this, right? So I will say, so don't worry yourself about this. So this is a way of running this, our app.py. So let me start up my application. All right. So I'll just show us a brief view of what the Swagger Docs looks like, right? Like that's the menu that shows the user where to go, right? So with this URL, you go to Docs. So this is the Swagger Docs, right? So we expand this. So this is like the documentation, the API documentation, or the menu. Provide me with all these things, then I'll give you a recommendation. That's basically what this endpoint, this Swagger documentation does. It's like the menu. Now let's try it, right? Let's try this out. Let's execute this. Now the person now goes, and recommendation is the response body is health, right? The response body is health. Now that's this Swagger. You don't want to go and show your recruiter Swagger documentation. That's where Streamlit comes in, right? If you want to prototype this, you don't want to show them Swagger documentation. Now I still have Streamlit plugged into this API. So I will just do Streamlit, run Streamlit.py. It's going to open up. So this is just like a front end. It was just to prototype. So this also contains, so as a user, you have the capacity to change all this information, right? You just to prototype how the model works. So we are going to get recommendation here, and it's run, and the recommendation is health. That's what our model, based on this information, that's what we are recommending, right? So you can see the workflow. So at the end of the day, we push this to GitHub. From GitHub, it's being put to a production server, is deployed and used to serve the general public. That's, you see the workflow. If you are with me, give me thumbs up. If you are with me, if you are with me, you see the workflow, right? So that's what we are going to gain here at Amdari. That's what we are going to offer you here at Amdari. The industry experience is not going to Jupyter Notebook and when you're done, you close laptop, bam, I've built my model, right? Yes, for academia, is that's the way it's done. Like when you are doing your masters, but is this how it's done in the industry? That's the question. Is this how it is done in the industry? And that's where our work experience program comes in to show you how this is done, amongst other benefits, to show you how this is done in the industry. So let's go back to this. So let's might be wondering, are people doing this? What's their experience like? Right. So I just showcased a process. So just this is a case study that myself and my consultants worked on. Right. This case study that I just presented is the kind of project that we did, that we do. Right. So you see, you cannot have this kind of project in your portfolio, in your GitHub, documented like that, and a recruiter is doubting your competency. I don't know how it is done. I don't know how possible it is, right? But you cannot. This shows this recruiter that you have done this in production. You know how this is done in production. You know how to arrange your project. You know how to move your project from this to that. And you don't just get this anyway. You don't just go out there and you know how to do it. You have to do it for you to know how to do it. And that's why we are here, to help you do it, for you to know how it's done, right? So I want to just share a little, see how people like you achieve success by applying this, what we have discussed so far. This particular student, Laju, this particular student, Boy Laju, is particular consultant. He is my consultant. We worked on this project together. When he told me that because the job we got, we actually prepared, we worked through the. I had to have a one-on-one session for the interview with him, right? And he ended up to get the work, right? After finishing his masters, right? I think he stayed up to like how many months? 8 months, right? After he finished his masters, stayed up to 8 months looking for a job, right, in the UK. And when he met us, he faced different challenges breaking into this data science field. Right? But he joined, I think this is our 4th month. So by participating in this our work experience program, hands-on experience, like see the kind of project that worked us through. Large can have that kind of project to show as a portfolio, and recruiter will say that this person doesn't know what he or she is doing. It is not done. Like it's not possible. It is not right. So we did hands-on experience. In fact, our project we deployed on DigitalOcean, right? They saw how to deploy, how deployment process, how you push to your GitHub, how you pull it, you connect to your server, you pull the your project from GitHub and run that same code. You run that same your containerized code, Docker Compose, right? In your production to start up your project. Sorry, and it's ready for use, right? He built a standard portfolio on the skills that recruiters are looking for, what recruiters expect. Remember the topic of today, what recruiters expect. And today, I don't know, say me and Laju, we are dragging who is teaching who, or who is leading who per se, right? Who is leading who? Because today he's a data scientist in the UK, right? And that's a true testament of the power of applied experience. You're not just doing it for doing it. You know the reason you are doing it. You know why you are doing it, right? And you know how to do it. Those are the two most important things. You know why you are doing it, and you know how to do it. You know how to present it. Having these three skills combined can get you to where you are seeing yourself, where you want to be, right? So that's for large. That's my student. Then we have Toby. Toby is also a consultant. So after completing the Amdari Work Experience program, Toby transformed his skills into reward experience. He built hands-on portfolio and applied techniques he learned to land a data science role in the UK. Just something similar to uh, Laju. The final goal, the end goal, to land this to land this role in the UK. To land it, you need to prove that you can handle the challenges, and you need to show workings. You don't, you know the talk. You need to show workings. This is what I have done, and from what you have done, it's not left for them to decide if what you have done, or based on what you have done, whether you can handle their problem, whether you can solve their problem, right? Then we have more success story. So this is also from one of my colleagues, Mohammed. So his consultant messaged him, right, to out of joy, to tell him that he got a data science job, like, right, using some of the things he learned at Amdari. And the person's name is Faye Shayo, right? He got a job as a data scientist in the UK during the work experience program, right? Now, at Amdari, we don't just offer you, you know, to know how to build your project, or to know how to structure your project, or to know how to document your project, to know these things, how it's been done in real life. We also have things. We offer you employability skills, the skills that you need to land this role, right? Remember from our first slide, you mentioned the things you might be doing wrongly, right? The things you might need to work on, the things that might be pulling you back from getting that role, from getting rejections or no's from recruiters, right? Now we are bringing in a solution. How do you position yourself? How do you package yourself, right? That's what we offer, these employability skills. The first is your CV review. You need to make sure that the CV is up to standard, because the first process is your CV speaks for you when you are not there, right? So that's the first thing. Your, with your CV, if your CV is not well arranged, you won't even get the opportunity to present yourself, or to communicate well, or to show your GitHub. No, right? You wouldn't get that opportunity. So you need to have a CV, a standout CV that you showcase from there, because most of these employees use what we call an ATS, right? So if your CV, most of them, they automate this process, right? So if you pass this process, then you can be called up for other steps of the interview. But you need to get your CV right. Now, recruiters also reach out to you via your LinkedIn, only if your LinkedIn is optimized. So you must have, there are some things you need to have in your LinkedIn, right? You just be getting messages. Before, let me just share my own personal story. Before, I don't believe in all these, personally, before now, I don't believe in all these showcasing yourself on social media. I'm not a social media person. I'm an introvert, right? I'm not that before now, right? Not that I'm not still an introvert, I'm still an introvert, but I understand what is required to be done, right? So I don't, before now, I don't, I don't pay attention to all these social media, all this stuff, right? But at the point, right? The point, I said no. I reworked my LinkedIn, I optimized my LinkedIn. I, my dear, I started getting messages that as an AI engineer, will you do this? Can you do this? Okay, let's see your GitHub. Okay, let's see your CV. Let's do this. Let's do that. Okay, can you work on this project? Can you? These are the kind of messages that an optimized LinkedIn gets, and that's what Amdari brings to the table, right? How to navigate the job market, right? So we don't just leave you scrolling aimlessly, trying to get jobs. You don't even know where to look. We hold you by the hand to navigate the job market. Then we prepare you for the interview, right? So there is also sessions that we have that we call mentorship session, where we also train you about, most especially about your soft skills, your communication skills, what's been expected of you by a recruiter and stuff like that, right? Then job reference later, right? Job reference later is also what part of what we give you, right? And finally, on the job support. So we walk you through this process from CV review and revamp to getting that job. We are not leaving you there. because I know how challenging it can be, right? After getting that job, the first, well, it depends, right? It depends. No, life is all about perspective. So I'm speaking from my own perspective. The first 2 months, right, will be something else, right? So that's you trying to adapt to the job, especially if it's in a fast-paced organization, right? Organization that doesn't wait for you to settle in, right? So if you see yourself in that kind of organization, they're already expecting PRs from you. Some people might be wondering what is PR. PR is pull request, and pull request is the GitHub we are talking about. That's how we collaborate, right? That's why GitHub is also important, right? So all these things there is what you know when you come in and see what's being done. That's the things we offer you. Right? So within this first month, they're already expecting PRs from you, your code, the features you're adding, your model that's to train in the production server, and they're already expecting pushes and PRs from you, right? So we also help you, we hold you by the hand to navigate that first period. We give you that on the job support, right? To slide into the job and flow from there, right? Then, if you're ready to be among the next success stories, we have an ongoing cohort. Um, our next cohort that is starting on the 6th of September, right? And that's an opportunity, right? I'm telling you from experience I've had with my consultant, that's an opportunity you do not want to miss. You do not want to miss this opportunity to see why and how things are being done in the industry. To position yourself as that outstanding candidate in the industry to get to land that role, right? To how to present yourself, right? Which falls under the packaging. How to present your project, how to structure your project, how to present yourself, how to communicate, right? So all these things packages you to land that role. And you can only get the intricacies of the why and how when you are in. So you need to come and take this opportunity, right? And I want you guys to see this as an investment, right? Don't see it as that you are paying, or see it as you are making an investment, right, into your future, and you're expecting a return. And this investment is for a discounted amount of £390, right? The initial full amount was one £500, but you are saving £110 for this investment. And the, should I say, mind blowing part of this thing is that you can actually pay, invest in multiple installments, right? You can start with 130, £130, right? And what's in it for you? I don't even need to, I don't need to go further. I don't need to tell you, you have seen, right? You have seen reward hands-on project experience, CV optimization, and LinkedIn makeover, interview preparation, remote job board access, your personal portfolio to showcase your skills, reference later, mentorship that comes every Thursday from industry experts, right? Then we have career coaching sessions, right? You have career coaching sessions. Please, if you have more questions or if you need clarity, just as this call is going on, just check on the um chat, the chat box. So just check on the chat box and you see some messages there, right? You want to get more clarity on this, on how we are structuring coding, right? So just to ensure that we are all together, if you are with me, give me thumbs up. Give me thumbs up. All right. So we have just hold on. So we have, just to show you that we are not here to play. We are not here to play. We are here to deliver value. We are here to help you, guide you, mentor you, even support you when you must have gotten the job. Because if you are dedicated, because I will always be sincere with people, all these things still falls back to what you want, right? If you know you really want to land this role, this is a very great opportunity. Now, if you know that you really want to land this role, take note of the tone. I used to say it the initial time and the tone I'm using to say it now, right? The first one is if you know you want to land this role, this is a great opportunity. But if you know that you want to land this role, then your hands must come on deck. Like this is hands on. Your hands must come on deck. We guide you. But you for you to know it, I will always say you will do the work, right? Your hands must come on deck. Don't because if you come here and you just start giving excuses, you maybe not really excuses, maybe these are your real life experience. You have multiple jobs. Yes, that's very well understood. That's why we even offer this our program. There is station we have office hours where you have direct communication, if not sometimes one on one with your team lead, right? Where you still get to follow up, catch up, right? So we understand, we factor all those things in, but don't use it as an excuse to do run the job and you are leaving everything, right? You're abandoning everything because you are so busy, right? It wouldn't be. So that's why I'm saying if you know that you want to learn this data science in the UK, then this is a great opportunity. But if you know that you really want to learn this data science as a data scientist, right? Your hands must come on deck, right? I'm telling you from experience. My consultant, Laju, wow. Mhm. Well, let's just the only thing I would say is that he did the work. Like he did the work, he showcased what he has done, and he was able to, you know, present what he has done. And if you don't do the work, you'll be confused. Like you wouldn't even know. Will you come and say that my team lead Soma did no now? You contribute to the project. In fact, what I did with them in the first project is that we collaborated. Like I'm the team lead, I'm the head of engineering in this case, right? So you push your project or you push your project, you create a PR, I pull your project, I review, I merge. Push your project to create a PR. This way it's been done in the industry, right? So you must do that work if you know. So we have more success story. This is recent. So he got a lot of offers from companies in UK and he are taking courses like everyone, still couldn't land interviews. Most probably because he wasn't doing the right things until he made one shift. He joined us, he gained real life work experience, worked on real life projects, got weekly feedback, had work experience in tech on his CV for the first time, has worked in with a UK company, right? So you also add it to your CV that you have worked with us, right? To create a course for their students. So it wasn't magic, it was exposure and structuring and packaging and positioning, right? These things. Right. Somebody will tell you that you got a job with Microsoft or you got a job with Salesforce, right? Or you get a job with this, you got a job with hey, you, you be like Jesus, what's happening? Like, how did you do it? You ask it, how did you do it? All these things, they are not magic. Is do you know the right thing to do? Like, do you know how to structure yourself? Do you know how to position yourself? That's the question. Do you know what recruiters expect? Right? So we have success stories on our reference later. So Sheung got an offer as an SOC analyst with healthcare Island after our SOC work experience program. right? So this for reference, we provide a reference letter, government reference for the application to healthcare island. Rin got to offer as a system analyst after a data analyst work experience, still based on. So this is the reference letter success from Rin and Sheung, right? So we also refer you, we give you reference letter and you get to apply to this company, right? So we have more. So let's story. So this is from a fellow specialist, Mark. So this person came to Mark and was overjoyed that he got the job. This is Mark congratulating the person, and you see another consultant getting a job, right? So we don't. When I tell you that we don't play here, believe me, we don't play. That's why I say. That's why I keep mentioning. If you know, like, if you really know that you want to learn this role, right? This is the right opportunity for you. But if you know that you want to learn this role, you know the next things, right? So I don't know. Time is fast spent. So if you are with me up to this point, just give me thumbs up, give me thumbs up, give me thumbs up, right? Give me thumbs up, right? Okay. So we have come to the end. So I would like to take your questions now. So any questions? Do you have questions for me? Let's converse. Let me hear your questions. Raise your hand. You can read it. All right. Okay. Rock. Wow. So let me start from you. So what time? Now it depends, right? It depends. The normal time is from 7 to 10 p.m. Right? From 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. We are picking this time because we are considering the fact we have in mind, and we are considering the fact that you might be working multiple jobs, right? So we don't want that to stand in a way for you if you know that you want to. So I'm based in UK, right? So if you know that you want to do this, you need to. Yes, yes, but there is still room for adjustment depending on the time that suits everybody, right? That you consider everybody, right? But the normal time is from 7 to 10 p.m., right? Okay. Yes, Prof. Well, okay, that's your question. So I've answered. Give way, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing this, if I'm pronouncing your name wrongly. Uh,
Yeah, I've seen you struggling to pronounce it, but that's fine. So my
Forgive
question
me.
is,
Mm,
can you differentiate between the role or function of a data scientist and a data engineer?
okay. Data scientist and data
And data
engineer,
engineer.
right? So the data engineer, let me start with the data engineer, right? So the data engineer in a structured company is responsible for movement of data, right? Collecting data from different sources. So the data engineer is responsible to go to this source where this data is being gotten from, right? So normally in a production environment, how this works is the backend connects to a database, right? And creates whatever it is they do that collects data from the front end and store to the database, whichever way the data is coming. It might be dirty, it might whichever way. So it's the work of this data engineer to go to this database, which is the source, right? Preprocess it and package it and store it in maybe a different database or a data warehouse or a data whatever the way they want to store it. It's also the work of data engineer. Anywhere the source of the data is coming from, whichever way, if it's from the if it's from social media or everything, but data engineer is responsible for collecting this, picking this data, pre-processing it, arranging it, and then storing it in a dedicated data warehouse, right? That's where the work basically of a data engineer ends. right? Then the data scientist, on the other hand, is responsible for building. They are like the end. Okay, okay. Let me put it like this: data engineer makes data ready for the end user. Now, the end user is the data analyst and the data scientist. So they go to where this data engineer has stored this data, pick this data, that's for a data scientist, and uses it to build a predictive model to make prediction. So let me give you an instance, right? Although I wouldn't say, don't quote me anywhere. I don't know if your phone, because some people is having the speculation that your phone is monitoring you everywhere you go. That's why you will look at a store and you say that you like this thing, and next thing you are seeing is you are seeing the advert inside in your Instagram or anything. You are scrolling and you are seeing the advert, right? Or let's say you for Netflix you watched a movie and next thing you are seeing a movie that is similar to the one you have seen. You see all those things you are seeing is the work of a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, right? They build systems that predict future events, right? They build systems that predict future events, or they okay, let me bring it down to the basic level. So they build or they're in charge of predictive analysis, right? Why data analyst is in charge of descriptive analysis. Data analysis just tells you what has happened, right? It tells you what has happened, the data history, what was happening in this data. Now, data scientist moves it further to tell you what will happen using the information that it has gotten from what happened, which is the data. So it's using the data to map out pattern to bring out, oh, if basically what data science is not rocket science, right? Is if you understand the theoretical aspect of this. What's happening in that your model when you say you're building a model? I've been mentioning model training, right? What's basically happening is that the entire model just raises mathematical patterns from your data. And remember, that's why I said if your data doesn't make sense to you, please not even expect it to make sense to your model. So you need to make it make sense to you first before you expect it to make sense to your model. Because what your model looks at basically is the pattern structure from the data, which is the history. It has already happened. It was just documented, right? So it picks this pattern. Oh, from this pattern, you can be like, okay, since this is happening like this, okay, let's say for instance, okay, in the previous years, we make a whole lot of sale around festive periods. Let's say December, um, April for Easter for Christians, and all this festive period. So your model or your model is speaking from your data history that we make a whole lot of sale in around this period, Easter, December. Now you want to know what will happen December next year, right? From this my explanation, the pattern is already that we are making sales we are making sales within this period, Easter, December. Basically, what your model predicts is that you make sale in December or so if your data doesn't make sense to you, don't expect it to make sense to your model, right? There's what we call garbage in, garbage out, right? Is what you feed to your model, that's what it provides to you, right? That's why they say in this LLM, everything boils down to your prompt because your prompt is you still giving the model data, right? Right? That's what your prompt does. So when you prompt it well, it gives you a good one. When you prompt it badly, it gives you a bad one. That's garbage in, garbage out. Same thing applies to machine learning and rest of these models. When you plug in rubbish, then it gives you rubbish information. So that's the difference between data engineer and data scientist. Um,
Thank
please
you.
help me pronounce your name.
Kevin?
Kewe. Okay, the V is silent.
Yes, the V7.
All right. I look forward to pronouncing this name of Kewe.
All right.
All right. All right. That's a very good question, Kewe. Any other question? Do you have any other question now? Okay. rock twice, and is it always? Is actually between 1 to 2 hours, depending on what is being expected to, depending on the milestone that was set. Because we work with milestones here, right? So these milestones have been achieved at every meeting. We want to make sure that we are on the same track, right? So depending on it, the meetings, right? It's not session because you're doing your stuff, right? Hands-on. Remember, if you want to do this, want to get this role, your hands must you must be techy. Like you must know how to do it. You must press that laptop and you must know how to do it. Right? So in these meetings, depending on the milestone that is set to be achieved, the class might take longer than an hour and it may extend to 2 hours, but it's normally between 1 to 2 hours. Yeah. Okay. So do we have any other question? Any other question? Any other question? Ah, it's been a long one. Oh my God. It's been a long one. So if there is no. Then there are not 7 days a week. You are it's not classes, call it meetings, right? So we meet 2 times in a week. So the rest, we give you the opportunity to work on these things, work on your project the way you understand. Then we come to meeting. No. Okay, this is how it is done. This is how this is the right way to do it. We walk you through the process of doing it. Then you go back, you work. That's why I said your hands must come on deck, right? Your hands must, if you know you really want to, get this data science role, your hands must come on deck. You understand? All right. Uh, Kewe, Kewe, go on. I know I pronounced it right. You can't. I tried. Okay. Is this still here? All right. I think we lost Kewe. All right. Any other question? Any other question? Any other question? Any other question? All right. So if don't forget to book a free clarity session with us, right? The link is already in the chat. So just go to the
Sorry,
chat and
my mic was acting up. Do I still have the opportunity to ask my question?
yes, please go on.
All right, good. I'm glad I was able to give you a second chance at pronouncing my name correctly, and this time you predicted it perfectly. So my question
Exactly.
is, thank you for
Okay.
your answer to my last question, by the way. I've been speaking
Mm,
to Omoumi, I think, and
mm.
we deduced. So I had it twisted. I had it the other way around, that computer scientists were doing what data engineers were, data scientists were doing what data engineers were doing, and vice versa. So on the basis of your explanation and this session today, which has been quite informative, I'm now convinced that what I need to be doing is data science and not data engineering. And to your question, you mentioned that the session starts from 7 p.m., between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Now, unfortunately for me, I am at work until 9 p.m. on most days. So how do I get to participate in the session?
Okay. Okay, the thing is that, it's not uh it's not just you. So in a team, you can have a team of, um more than more you can have many people in a team, right? So the first thing is to like decide on the time that suits the team. We are working in the team, right? So you need to decide on the time that suits the team. And you should have in mind that the classes, the sessions, the meetings are always recorded, right? And alongside that, we have office hours where you still meet, still have the opportunity to arrange with your team lead, right? To still ask questions and get clarification on that. But most importantly, these meetings are being recorded. So you can always catch up with what You can always catch up if you really want to. For some people, we go and start giving this is that I work, I work, I work, I work. Yes, we understand that, right? We factor those, we consider those things, right? But the question is, do you really want to get this? Because if you really want to get this, you will definitely make out time for it. You will make out time, right? You will make out time. And at the end of the day, you will get the value that you expected. But if you keep giving these excuses that, and not really excuses, that might be the reality here, but you need to push, you need to do the extra. I always tell my consultants, the extra, that's what makes you, that's what picks you out. That's what makes you stand out. The extra, going the extra mile. If these persons are stopping here, if I add one more thing, where do that leads me? Right? That's the extra. And it always makes you stand out. So if you are prepared for that, then this is the right opportunity for you. Right. So yes, that answered your question as well, Rockwell. Any other question? Any other question? All right. In the absence of no question,